I've solved it. I've only gone and bloody solved it. How the entire FF7 Remake story is gonna end. What's good, my fellow peasants? How you doing? Okay, so I admit I'm being a bit hyperbolic. After all, there's probably a million ways that this crazy new version of the 7 story is gonna go. And I bet Square haven't even fully decided themselves. So it's gonna be a bit of a job for me to persuade you. And all I ask is to stay to the end of the video because this is gonna be some level 10 theory shiz nizzle. For real, level 10. If Maximilian Dudes for level theory, which is legit the only explanation video I've actually seen. I've not even replayed the game, I only completed it a few days ago, so I'm pretty sure some of you have already come up with this idea or this theory. Maybe it's common or maybe I'm just loony. I really don't know is what I'm saying. But I am going to try and back up and explain some of the wild claims I'm going to make in this video. And it's a theory I call the God Cloud theory. So strap on in, get the tinny hats ready because this is definitely going to be one of the boldest, weirdest, and most over-the-top theories I've ever attempted to get away with. Let's go.
I've come up with a new theory.
So because I live streamed the FF7 remake, which I just want to say what a beautiful, nostalgic, incredible experience I found this first part to be, I really did think Square did a fantastic job. In fact, maybe even too fantastic. Because it has left me mildly concerned of how the hell the rest of this project is even going to be completed. At this level of extra detail and production quality, it's so hard to see it, but anyway, I finished the game 2 weeks later than I think most of you had, so I thought there's little point me coming out here and delivering just another regular. This is how the FF7 remake ending happened. I'm hoping everyone who is on this video has kind of gone and viewed all of those videos and you've already ascended to level 4 understanding, but just in case you haven't, here is what's going to be a really breakneck speed summary. So basically Sephiroth has come back from the future. God, this is so trippy to say. He's come back from post-Advent Children timeline and is attempting to alter fate and fuck with Cloud in whole new ways. What really gives it away, because I know still some people even arguing this, but I do find it pretty obvious and I can't believe I actually managed to let the game dupe me the entire way through. It was Sephiroth's power level, the black wing, calling the meteor, and if not that, definitely his familiarity with Cloud. I would thought it was so weird, even before the game's release, that Seph had memories of Cloud. It just wasn't acting the same, was not acting like the identity devoid alien Genova Seph that we're used to. Instead, it was more like the great manipulator is back. It's really him. He's back to all the course of the original fence to defy destiny, which the Watchmen of Fate or the Whispers are then desperately trying to put back on track. Now, quickly going over to Aerith in all of this, because I've seen some real debates, especially with her, whether she has all of her future memories as well. Now personally I've thought that Aerith has slowly regained them over the course of this game when I look back at it. You know, hence this line.
I'm lost in a maze and every step is taking me further from the path. Every time the whispers touch me, I lose something, a part of myself.
There is something definitely to be said about the little things, like the way she gave Cloud the flower, for example, at the first meeting in this game, and she mentions that means reunion. Like she knew they were reuniting. She also says a lot of cryptic stuff.
Spouting that cryptic stuff, which could all be bullshit.
Not least telling Cloud not to fall in love with her.
I'm glad I met you, Cloud. I really am. I'm grateful for all the words we've shared. For all the moments and the memories. You've made me more happy than you know. And I'll always cherish what you've given me. But whatever happens, you can't fall in love with me. Even if you think you have, it's not real.
And even just out and out other times exposing herself like this.
I need you to get Marlene to safety, right? Huh?
Now granted, you could argue Marlene was mentioned in the trade graveyard, but I think what we've seen with this game is that not much, if anything, changes from OG FF7's story without a reason. They've gone to painstaking lengths to drill that point home, and personally I've chosen to settle on the idea that Aerith definitely has some of her memories, but for the ones that she hasn't, her intuition is filling the gap, if you get what I mean. Because after all, Cherith Painsborough has always been an exceptionally intuitive gal, from childhood, from OG days. She really is in tune enough with her feelings to transmute them into understandings, a trait that I don't think the rest of our doubt-riddled protagonists fully have yet. In fact, the only other person I would say has this trait is Zack Fair. Oh boy, they did this. They really did this. Goddamn Square. So after opening a portal at the crossroads of destiny, Cloud and the group, they cross through, they battle fate itself. Did they? And in doing so, they started a ripple of chain events that echo up and down the timeline. Destiny's destroyed and many very significant changes are made, or should I say timelines. I mean, there's the one with Zack and Cloud alive, which I loved Maximilian Dude's idea that they could potentially consider like a FF8 Laguna type crossing over, where we play with Zack and see some of that venture play out, but there could be more. Because when it comes to butterfly effects and singularity events, who knows just how wild this might get. Anyway, that's the roughest of outline, the roughest. If you want to check the Maximilian Easy Allies podcast, I encourage you to do it if none of what I've said so far makes sense, because now it's time for us to ascend to level 10. 10, baby, here we go. So 7 seconds until Meteor.
7 seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see.
After I'd finally mopped my brain up off the floor from the sheer mind blow Square Enix dealt me, I started questioning everything. I looked at everything over again, and one thought that came into my mind was, okay, so if future Sephiroth is here, why the hell is he being so elaborate in his scheme? Like, why not just go back to before Cloud and the gang meet, hop in a failed clone, which essentially like meat sacks to him, head over to the Temple of the Ancients, activate Black Materia, Temple shrinks, clone squish, then hop in another one, grab said black materia, take it over to his body, which must surely still be in the northern crater at this point, and winner meteor dinner. Seph's completed his original goal, but he's not doing that. It didn't make sense because this Sephiroth can already summon Meteor. So then I thought, okay, well, why not just summon it now without Cloud at all, stand at the center, let it hit the planet, Holy's not been summoned, and absorb the souls, become a god now, Sephiroth. And then it hit me. Why he can't do that? It's because clearly this Seph doesn't have a body. He's this cellular hijacking / memory complex being that needs to force his way into a host. And I think we've seen the quality of the host is important. The ones that are sickly and frail, like literally this guy, are sick. Marco type failed clones aren't a vessel that's gonna be able to absorb all the souls of the life stream. It's not strong enough. Even the entire crux of the story in Advent Children was Kadaj becoming a Sephiroth host. But, and I think you get where I'm going with this, they all lost to Cloud. All these vessels, the Kadaj Seph lost to Cloud, Crater Body Sephiroth lost to Cloud, even OG Body Sephiroth lost to Cloud. So could this be the reason that Sephiroth is going through all this arse backwards effort to not only empower Cloud, he says he actually wants him to stay alive, but also that Cloud should join him, to actually take his hand, that together they can defy destiny. He actually clearly needs Cloud to side with him, and the only strong reason I can come up with is he needs Cloud to be the host body for the souls of the planet. I mean, he's put him right at the center of a meteor in this 7 seconds, till it ends scenario, and all I can think is because Sephiroth knows from experience the only viable candidate vessel strong enough to take a meteor to the face is our boy Cloud, and this would make so much sense. As to the sheer length Sephiroth is taking to manipulate Cloud, you see, the thing with poor Spiky is, even since OG days, he's been this constant pull between darkness and light. From the times he handed over the literal apocalypse, twice, to nearly cleaving best girl in half and suffering a lifetime of insecurities that would screw anyone's brains. But then he's also had the companions that he meets around him. He's had the lessons and strength that they each give him, the wisdom they impart, the will to good that he witnesses in them, and could now be re-witnessing in a Type 0-esque game theme that gamifies ideas surrounding the soul's evolution. Whoa, I'm jumping way ahead of myself, and I warn you, yes, from here on this may sound like a fanfiction gone mad, but hear me out, because hell, if Zack, Biggs, Wedge, maybe Jessie, though some of you have told me not, feels bad, man. They've all remarkably been kept alive, so really the extent of the way Square Enix end each of these episodes could get really wild, could get really fanfictionally, and I do say specifically the end of the games because I am aware that Nomura has confirmed that the remake going forward would still follow the structure and events of the original game, which is great. I love that. I love that we get to go on a journey that felt as familiar and nostalgic as this first remake part really did. And it really did, while also following the possibilities of this alternate and what seems literally parallel at times events of the story. If Square can walk the tightrope between both, if they can pull it off, I think this will be a really good finale to the universe. So why do I think Cloud will become the vessel, the host that embodies all of the souls of the planet? God mode Cloud, level 10. Well, it's because as I got thinking about what kind of timey-wimey logic this game could be using, and I've been looking at many proposed theories in science of parallel universes. The main ones are things like the bubble universes, extra dimension membranes, or the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, and I went down that rabbit hole, smacked my head against the wall clean, obviously. And then I thought, oh, well, hold on, I'm using too much normal logic here, so I took that half and I shoved on my fantasy logic hat. And with that, I realised that something that had been bothering me, and maybe someone else had this, but it bugged me the whole game, was how quickly the characters seem to be evolving, both as individuals and as a whole, as the relationships between each of the characters. They blew up so quick. I called it out a good 5-6 times in my playthrough, and I frankly passed it off as Square Enix, just trying to recreate that full rounded game feel. But now equipped with level 4 power armor, we can see that none of this was left for mere coincidence. Nothing happens just for the sake of it, and whether that's from the way that Barrett started bro-loving Cloud with such ferocity, or Cloud, where he was like giving these stable-headed life advices.
Put your heart and soul into getting better.
Holy crap.
It's as simple as that.
This is a new Cloud already. He's all smiling. This doesn't happen until the end of AC, goddammit. There's a song, a little song about it, it's a thing. But seriously, even like the way Cloud responded to a girl saying not to fall in love with him, Aerith, who he'd only met a few days ago. Based on like his response, there was like this hint that Cloud knew somewhere already deep down that he had loved this girl. Now, of course, the future memory transferences that we see throughout the game plays a huge role in that. None more so than, I think it was like Nanaki. Nanaki's was huge, like Jesus, did you see him? 1 minute he's, oh shit, humans I hate. I feck you up. So next minute, whee, interdimensional destiny portal hopping with my chums, why not, let's go. Like, he was so quick to trust them. And definitely Aerith passing stuff had a lot to do with that, but what I'm proposing is that this timeline Sephiroth has hacked into is a separate yet happening on a loop or at the same time on top of the OG story. And as they're both playing, bits of information or dare I even say emotional memory is bleeding into each of these timelines. That is the reason the characters have been far quicker to bond in the game. Their trust has been so different, evolved at such a different pace, like really jumped ahead. The way that they even react and act towards things seems different. Barrett, again, is a really huge tell for me. Barrett's a big one, because he's just so much a better leader. Definitely, like his rousing speeches were actually dope. While he's still wacky and over the top and big angry Barrett stereotype, he is at the same time still remarkably more restrained than the Barrett we know. He's actually capable of having a marginally more centered battle of ideas with a Shinra middle manager, and even show restraint from throwing the president just off the building to his death. Hell, Barrett almost implicitly states it himself with this line.
Wouldn't be the first time I spit in Destiny's eye.
Now, sure, he could be talking about the 2 botched reactor explosions that are on his CV, or his middling role in the Before Crisis timeline, or perhaps he's talking about surviving his burned hometown. But something makes me say I doubt it, because I can't shake this feeling that this feels like, and the characters evolving as if it's all a rerun, a remembrance, or should I even say a reunion for all of the characters involved. That these characters are remembering stuff from the OG timeline, and based on the ones who are more attuned to their intuition, or moments of it, like when Barrett just randomly rants, or none more so than the meditating local florist, that they're getting subtle hints of their OG selves throughout the game. And my very loose proof for this, and it is loose, but Square, you duped me with this ending. Big time. Because despite the myriad of hints you were leaving for years, I just did not overthink any of it enough. I will not be making that mistake today, guys. Here we go, overthinking. I'm thinking about when we had to fight a Type 0 behemoth in Deep Ground. So, Type 0 to Behemoth, okay, that's a cool Easter egg. But then things got weirder, and as I recall saying on stream, parts of this remake would begin to feel like a FNC game. I couldn't put my finger on what or why, I didn't even know about the timelines now, and it definitely is more FNC, and that's when we went and battled the 3 Whispers at the Battle of Fate. Or at least that's what Cloud thinks they are. It's coming, it's coming. Anyway, one of them was called Rubrum. Now, this could just be a reference to the colour red, like the others are references to saffron and green in Latin, but I couldn't help but thinking, oh, another Type 0 wordy word. And this is where there's going to be some mild spoilers for Type 0, because what it got me thinking about is the characters in that game. They exist in an ever-looping timeline. It happens again and again, millions of times. They grow up, they meet for the first time, they think they're strangers. They think this is the first time they've all interacted, but it's actually been happening millions and millions of times over. And it's through different amplitudes of subtle ways that people can intuit or channel intuitive information. You know, for example, you've got Ace, he had it through dreams. Keita constantly talked about deja vu. Makina had this fierce desire to protect Rem that was coming from, it was compounding over each timeline. Or you might say his creepiness was compounding, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, even 9, he just had like these intermittent odd spells of remembering emotion, but not really knowing what they're about, but feeling it regardless. So it might be a stretch to say they put these Type 0 references in to hint at that, but regardless, that's certainly how this game felt to me. After all, what else could possibly explain Jessie's thirst other than timeline memory bleed? Come on, I mean, for real. This sure as hell ain't first time meeting levels of I want to tear your clothes off. That's a you ain't getting away from me this time, you sexy little bitch. If ever I saw it. So I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say there. And the reason why it's important is because I theorize that this gradual remembrance of the original FF story that Cloud is getting hints of, that I feel that all the characters are getting hints of, that this will ultimately lead to the final version of Cloud, the full clarity Cloud that will have to make a decision, the ultimate choice between when he becomes the vessel. He has to choose between the redemption of dirtbag humans, a bunch who haven't given Cloud the greatest of reasons to want to save them, especially at this part of the remake, versus succumbing to Sephiroth's plan, the seduction of godhood, and eating the relentlessly offered famous despair. See, because I've never been more convinced than now that the meta ending of OG FF7 did wipe out all of humanity. This is huge. I did a whole video on it, so feel free to check that out, but more or less, Square Enix left it open-ended intentionally for player interpretation on whether humanity survived or not, but many did conclude that humans had been eradicated, including none other than the man Kitase himself. He said in an interview, when he was asked about the 500-year time jump, he said, well, it's a happy ending, even though all humans are destroyed. Even more so, I think, is when Nanaki in this remake backs it up, is when he sees a glimpse of him running in the canyon with his cubs and overlooking Midgar taken back to nature. He specifically calls it a bad ending that has to be stopped. And that's curious. So when you go to what Bugenhagen said in the observatory, that the planet would choose to keep humans around, and that he wasn't sure which choice it would make, I'm really thinking the answer could have been no. And if that was the case, then I can't think of what a better conclusion this remake could shoot for than to decide on what that outcome was. I'd much prefer that. I'd prefer that over it staying open-ended again. And of course, the other most important answer that most of you want to know, sod of humanity, we want to know about Aerith, mate. Do you think she will die? Will they kill her? Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll get Cloud to kill her. Well, screw it, who knows? Maybe Aerith is so aware she has to die that she will force it to happen herself. So when it comes to this topic, and this is what leads beautifully into this theory, I'm leaning more towards the thought, I'm sure some of you are having, that they will set it up to think there's a chance that because destiny is no more and that boundless, terrifying freedom of possibilities lay ahead of us, one of which might include saving her. But as Square Enix brilliantly threw a spanner in the works with, and I love this part, the whispers we battle at the end, of course they are the forms of Kadaj, Loz and Yazoo. Ooh, I never saw it, but it blew my mind when I found out after. So the remnants of Sephiroth are already in control of fate. They may have embedded themselves there specifically to trick Cloud into thinking he has defeated destiny, that he can now defy it. Defy the moment that we've often seen Cloud not able to move past. And it is her death. And maybe this is how Sephiroth attempts to break Cloud, to offer him hope for her survival, which, that would be the delicious looking chocolate coating concealing despair. I'm going to go full storytelling mode now, so I'm going off the rails. Follow me, level 10 insanity. I'm saying that in some big red herring event, one that will happen around Aerith's death, that gives us a choice that makes we think we can save her. I think the choice would be really cool to either be that we defy destiny for selfish personal feelings, like keeping Aerith alive. It's something emotional to us. That'd be great because we'd be really no difference to Sephiroth, who is also breaking destiny for his own desires. And the other choice would be for us to keep it on track. Aerith still has to die, even without the whispers being there to try to force it to happen. But what I think Square will do is either choice we pick, Aerith will die, but the intention of our choice will have some more meaning. So here we go, full imaginary hat mode now. Aerith gets stabbed, same place, same time, same location as the original. Game is still on the same rails of storytelling. She hits the deck, Cloud catches her, she's dying, and in those dying moments, either through magic hand transference, or maybe something that Aerith says, or a timeline convergence, or maybe nothing as big as that, just a passing glance of understanding, I don't know. But Cloud gets a big mental breakthrough of either his past timelines, the one that's happening where he's with Zack, or maybe he sees Aerith's full goal, like she shows it to him. Something about the future of humanity, and it's at that moment before she dies and he sees it, he simply says, I promise. I promise. Remember this. I know, I'm imagining this, but this I promise is important. Keep it in your mind. So anyway, after losing Aerith again, fans be broke. There was no hope. The knife gets twisted deeper in Cloud and we see him starting to break. And that's when Sephiroth then takes out the rest of his friends. Because again, remember, it's his friends that give Cloud his strength. Sephiroth knows this. He knows they're the pillars that hold him up. And if Sephiroth wants to break him to become a willing vessel, then Sephiroth's going to need to kill them. And I don't think that's far to say. I mean, he's already attempted it with Barrett. He's already gone there. And not to mention, he's shown Cloud visions of him actually doing it. I think it will happen. I think the meteor will come down. I think he will kill them, and it will be in that moment, in that version of Cloud, as the meteor, as the final 7 seconds ticks over, that will be the part we have multiple endings finishing the remake, and the multiple endings will be contingent on the choice we made about Destiny and Aerith. Stay with me. The bad ending will be that if we decided to keep Aerith alive, or at least we attempted to but failed, that means that Cloud could not accept Destiny. He could not accept her death. And because of that exact reason, that we get the same ambiguous OG ending happens. It happens the same way. 7-second moment, Cloud's at the center, livestream and Holy doesn't come, however, like we've seen. Maybe it does. We've seen a version where it doesn't. And anyway, flash of light, Nanaki over Midgar 500 later. Credits roll, end. It's the same ending, but it's a bad ending. I mean, maybe they even go further with the bad ending. They actually have Cloud give in to the grief of the losses he suffered, the same way Sephiroth gave in, and he actually abuses the souls for his own godhood, and Seth wins. I don't know, maybe that's too far for the bad ending, but the good ending is that if we chose to accept Destiny and not meddle with it, then in that ending, That's the ultimate one. With the entirety of humanity's fate in his hands, or literally in his body after becoming the vessel, Cloud strikes the perfect balance between the two biggest mentors of his life. On one side we've got Aerith, and yes, on the other it is Sephiroth. I did a video on this just before the remake came out, talking about how I felt Sephiroth has had as much influence in shaping Cloud, just as much as Aerith has. And that even by the name of Sephiroth, it represents the Sephiroths, the multiple stages of human developments. Basically, on one side of the Kabbalah tree, you've got the two powerful but polarizing extremes, one of which is judgment, and the other is mercy. And these are really significant because all of Cloud's experience has been a continual oscillation between these two ends. Judgment and mercy, Sephiroth and Aerith, and I think it would be oddly poetic if this was about Cloud finding the middle ground between the two, because like the Kabbalah tree says, judgment without mercy is said to be the root of evil, a Sephiroth. And yet mercy without judgment is also as bad. It's the passive negligence that has led to the planet being relentlessly injured by humans who are not made to pay for their greed, for their actions. And it would be great to see if Cloud was the one to decide the fate of mankind, because what other better candidate could there be? Think about it, someone like Cloud who has felt the insecurities of loneliness, the cruelty of bullying and betrayal, or the vulnerability that sickness brings, the pain and grief of death, or the shame and unworthiness of having another sacrifice themselves for you. He's seen all of that dark, but again, he's also experienced love, companionship, the will and endurance of a community. Most importantly, top tier bloody waifus, mate, and I mean top tier. Quickly on this point, because I keep getting asked, like, Pez, who's the best girl? And I'm just going to respond now. They're all best girls, mate. The whole conversation makes no bloody sense. They're all amazing. It's like being offered 3 of the most beautiful, expensive cars in the world that are way out of your league. Eventually, you just get to a point where you say, fuck it, I'll have either, thank you very much. No, Cloud, he's witnessed time and time again even the selfless altruism that humans are capable of. No, he's fought alongside people who wanted to do good in the world. He's been a leader. He's been taught the worthiness and respect of every living thing. You know, like when Aerith's trying to make him talk to the flowers. And no, dare I even say it, he's even been in touch with his femininity. He got the yin, he got the yang. He's seen almost every side of humanity that there is, and after absorbing all the souls, just imagine how crazy this would be, he makes the decision to fulfill Aerith's goal. Her goal. Now, I've mentioned this goal a lot, and I spoke about it very much in this Marlene Cetra video. Check it out, because it's a doozy. I've always said that it's Aerith's goal to return humanity back to being Cetra, but not completely back. No, not to like this, what they were in that really cool cinematic. The ancient one that was so cool. And I'm not saying Cloud should gather all the souls and then just immediately release them so they can go being wandering nomadic hippies, because one thing I think this remake really emphasized again and again, it was the importance of home. Yeah, Marlene, she really squeezed this message home.
Are they gonna destroy the bar? Are they gonna destroy our house?
As did Tifa when the bar is destroyed.
We'll build another bar.
Yeah, we will.
We really see that love for home emphasized, and even that goes on with like the neighborhood watch or the suffering that we see in the slums, yet people still carry pride in where they live. And see, that's what the Cetra were punished for, really. They wanted to settle down, and it is through settling down they became negligent. But now we have to argue, is it really a crime to want a home, a place to call yours? Something that is dear and intrinsic to the human heart as our home. So what I prefer to see is, instead, could we see a unity of humanity between the humans they are now and the Cetra that they all once were, the trait of caring about the planet? What could possibly achieve that unity of balance that I can tell Aerith, when she's in ghost form and, even in original, helping kids work on the allotment, the plants, she does it so often, and yet at the same time, it didn't seem to make much difference. Now, especially go to Advent Children, where at this point humanity literally saw the life stream come to the aid of the planet, and that still wasn't enough for them to really change their ways. What if Cloud, when he has all the souls as the vessel with a balance of mercy but also judgment, he decides to keep the souls of humanity in the life stream for 500 years? A length of time he's chosen because that is the time it will take for the scars of the planet that humans created to heal. And now, by being in the life stream, all of humanity has to feel firsthand the pain that we often hear about the screams in the game. The planet's screaming out in pain. Whoa, what other crazy, more intimate and visceral way could cause a change of heart in humanity than them actually feeling the pain that they've caused and collectively sharing and atoning for their sins? That would be the legacy left in Cloud from a fully defeated Sephiroth, which would weirdly be positive, and I think that would just add to the tragedy that is Sephiroth. And that's where we go back to the ending for the perfect ending. So Nanaki, he's there, he's looking over Midgar. We think it's normal ending. It's just going to end ambiguously, and that's when Cloud releases the souls back onto the planet. No, he doesn't keep them to go cosmos traveling in godhood mode, but to give them a second chance upon a healed, fresh planet. All of their cities are gone. They're going to need to rebuild from the ground up, but Nanaki sees them return. His old friends, 500 years later, he goes scampering down the hill. And now with their new woke eyes, humanity does it. They do it. They alter their course, and check this. This is where it gets good. They begin immediately with the rebuilding of Midgar, but this time eco-friendly and green. Genuinely. It would be a genuine Neo Midgar. And remember the I promise I mentioned earlier during Aerith's death scene? This was the future he caught a glimpse of, and that was what he promised her. This is the promised land. Oh my, the entire prophecy of the FF7 universe at last answered. Whoa, the place that was constantly said in the game to be promised to the Cetra was a prophecy of a promise from Cloud to Aerith, human to Cetra, a vow that although home is an important concept to humans, that they would never again use the planet's life at the expense to build them. And thus Neo Midgar was actually built in the promised land. Oh man, I could be way off, and I haven't again viewed a ton of theory videos, anything like that. I'm just coming in fresh and blind here, but I think that is dope. Now, obviously, some people aren't gonna like it. Some people might have some qualms with this, and genuinely, I'm gonna leave a poll in the top corner. Check it out, vote on what you think, and yeah, give me your thoughts. I'm not trying to ram this home as a this is gonna happen theory. I've solved it. I've only gone and bloody solved it. You've made your point. But I do think it would be cool, because I'm not saying all the souls just should be there at the end, like everyone comes back. You know, Angel, Genesis, Aerith, Zack, they're all in Neo Midgar frolicking and party hard, happy. Sort of like a KH3 ending, maybe they'll go down the beach and lob some frisbees. I'm not saying that, because what I think is important is that the game concludes in a similar way to the original. So what I think is all the souls that weren't supposed to exist past this point of destiny, the singularity, and no one who shouldn't lives past that point. So the way I see it is perhaps in restoring humanity, Cloud also has to fundamentally accept destiny. Cloud's fully come to accept it. You know, while it sometimes seems the cruel enemy that you don't want, destiny can also be the fickle finger that guides us, that intuitive nudge that pushes us all carefully or forcefully at times towards our soul's evolution. And you know, what I'm thinking is, anyone remember playing the old Prince of Persia games? Oh, like the Sands of Times, you know, where no matter how many times the prince tried to prevent his dad's death and defeat destiny, he couldn't, or it had worse outcomes. He had to come into acceptance of it, that our time is finite, we live, we die, it happens, and impermanence is something that we must accept, and Cloud can do that. He reinstates destiny. So those who were supposed to die, so say Aerith and Zack, say they have to return to be guardians of the newly reinstated live stream. Anyone else who's alive, no, Biggs, Wedge, Jessie, whoever it may be over the rest of this, they'll return to the live stream while the other characters build the new world of the game, and thus the game's end roster of characters is perfectly preserved. And I think this would be swag, because think about it, think about Neo Midgar. Who from the roster would be best in a position to build it? So we'd have like Barrett and Tifa, even Yuffie, who understands the plight of the poor, the downtrodden, the working class. They understand what corruption does to those at the bottom, so they could help build a fair society.
Would help the people, help them recover and rebuild. You.
Ree, for example, is an urban city developer. He could actually design an eco-friendly Midgar this time, which would be a huge role for him, and an even bigger one I think would be Rufus. Boy, this would be such a redemption arc for Rufus. Now, because as often as we can easily think government and leadership is always inherently corrupt and evil, there's an argument to say that it's a necessary role, especially when masses of humans all live together in one place. And Rufus knows how to lead a city, he knows how to govern. So what if he took over his father's propaganda-fueled pipe dream of Neo Midgar and actually makes it work, becomes the president of it. I like this, especially because Advent Children really did start to play with the hint that Rufus and the Turks were looking to make amends for their actions, and for all intents and purposes, it seemed pretty genuine. Of course, I'm always going to doubt it, but maybe a Rufus reborn in the livestream, he gets it. Who knows? Who knows? I have no doubt that all of this is going to seem pretty or too far for some people. Hell, I mean, there's a load of people who already think the remake's gone too far, but in all honesty, this is the kind of ending and theory I could see possible now, and I think it'd be profound as balls, because not only would it honour the themes of the original, themes like the soul, nature of the soul, life, death, consequence, acceptance, choice and destiny, not only are we still going on the same familiar journey, so it's nostalgic and honouring to the original, it would also be a huge honouring to where the character development arcs in this game could go. Be like the level 3 awakening equivalent in a Persona game. We get to see them go even further, and it would also be an inspiring view just to see humanity at the end of the game actually in harmony with its real home, the planet, the entire message of the game. Aerith's goal would be complete, Sephiroth's legacy influential and lasting. Fans will be bawling their soggy eyeballs out and rushing out to buy tissues, recycled tissues mind you, after experiencing such a grin-worthy, wholesome ass finish. And that is the God Cloud theory. That is my level 10 insanity, that Cloud will become the vessel, condemn humanity to 500 years of watching the planet heal before being released and building Neo Midgar in the Promised Land, which was a promise from Cloud to Aerith when he was finally able to accept the destiny of her passing. I am done. I am done. Needless to say, I am hella curious on what you guys all think. Feel free to load this up with counter holes. Say what you don't like about it, what you think is good, how much will go down similar to this. Or if you've got a completely different theory altogether on where the hell this remake is going. A whole world of possibilities, and I hope you've enjoyed me opening your eyes to one of them. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Until the next video, tinfoil hat, kupo!